Can you open? Yep, you got it. You're on. It's up, Tamara.
Okay. You can see me too?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to do
Good
this
afternoon,
live.
everyone, and welcome back to the HSE People virtual exhibition. And live on our stage, I'm joined by Tamara Parris, who is the Director of Community and Social Development at Saferpedia, and also Lisa Lande, who's a licensed psychologist and the owner of Petrichor Consulting. They are going to share with us their insight and experience in an introduction to community and networking in the safety industry. If you've got any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat, and I will ask our speakers to address them later on once they've gone through their presentation. So thank you very much, and over to Tamara and Lisa.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's a pleasure being here today and having my good friend Lisa to do this. You know, it's a kind of a funny story because Lisa and I actually met through networking and through community. And we're not going to be really using a lot of slides today. It's going to be more Lisa and I sharing our experiences of networking and community and what has been the value for us as individuals. Really, the purpose of us coming and talking with you today, you know, collaborating with you today, is because we've really noticed that there seems to be a lot more trend about networking for numbers as opposed to looking at networking for quality of relationships. And I know that when I started networking, I didn't even know about LinkedIn. I didn't know about social media, but I had just started my health and safety career in a big, large retail space. And I needed to find somebody who was more senior than me, but like-minded, so that I could kind of work through those first year jitters of being a health and safety professional. Lisa, what about you?
And how I got involved with the networking and social media?
Yeah.
Is that what you're...
Yeah.
It was only LinkedIn. I'm one of those people that turned away from the other social networks, and I went on to LinkedIn as a means of building up a professional presence and to learn from the people who are out there with the expertise. And it evolved to something I never anticipated it could. I hate to say it, but I think with the onset of the pandemic, Tamara, it actually has fostered a more authentic relationship with the people that I'm networking. So in sum, I say that, you know, constitutes my experience with social networking.
Yeah, I think you're right that, you know, this whole situation that we're all going through, the health crisis, has really kind of pushed us into thinking about how we're using social networking and social tools and community in a different way. And so that's why, you know, I really think that when we're looking at networking and reaching out to people, Lisa and everybody, it's really about what is your intention for that connection? Are you bringing value? Is there quality in your networking? Because that to me is the royalty of our relationship and my relationship with Rebecca, is that we have grown so much from knowing one another. And it's not about, do you have millions of followers? Because millions of followers will do nothing in the bigger scheme of life. It's the people that you're engaging with. Are you bringing time to value to one another?
So, you know, to play off of that, Tamara, the numbers in themselves aren't the things that bring value, but the numbers and being connected to a large network facilitates the quality of the relationship.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing. I just want to, you know, discriminate between getting numbers for numbers' sake versus numbers that bring some momentum and energy. And, you know, I've been doing some really interesting reading on LinkedIn. And I don't know if you know Sonia Blinette. I hope I'm saying her name right.
Yeah, actually, Lisa, I wanted to give you the stage for a moment so that you could share your research. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean,
Fabulous.
Sure, I'd be happy.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah, no, take it away.
but I want to have conversation. So whenever there's a question, just interrupt me. Let's pretend we don't have an audience and we're just really having this conversation. So anyway, Sonia is one of the members of Cognitive Edge, and she's a David Snowden, partner. And she had responded to a post that had gone up by, his name is Valdis Krebs. And again, I only was introduced to him via a post that Sonia had made, and I was connected to her. He did some very interesting research, and I'm going to ask Rebecca to make that available to the audience, on the importance of position in the social network. And what he meant by that is, are you connected to the right people? And what he meant by that was not the power people, necessarily the people who can influence, although that can be helpful. It was more about the non-redundant social network, meaning those individuals that maybe bring a diversity of opinion and perception and not, a one-off. And if you think about the research that is out there, innovation is often stimulated by having diverse criteria and interest and information coming into play. And if one is receptive to that diversity of opinion, data and perception, they actually expand their ability to create. And we see this just by, these authentic networks we're creating. So, if we consider, and actually Sonia calls these, I think, Cinefin, which is part of Cognitive Edge. If you consider these individuals, I think that she referred to them as boundary hoppers. And these are the individuals that actually, they make links between very disparate phenomenon. And if we talk about that in the safety community, there's a lot of conversation, sometimes even controversy, Tamara, between safety 1, safety 2, the use of PPE, and, whether we should care more about people. We have all these diverse opinions. When we look at the social data, and again, I'll make this link available to you, the individuals who sit at the nexus of all of those different perceptions tend to hook other people in with them. And they seem to be central to the conversation. And so I just wanted to throw that out, maybe as a self-reflection point. Are you staying kind of in your niche of safety perspective or any professional perspective, or are you really reaching out and being open to those diverse opinions?
And I think that's the beauty of community and networking and meeting people, is because it does kind of push you out of that bubble and expose yourselves to different thinking. I would have never met somebody in Netherlands who was in the same area as me if it wasn't through online. I've gone to the Netherlands, I biked through the Netherlands, but you and I never met while I was visiting on holidays and doing that wonderful tour. But we did meet once we kind of become into these circles, social circles of people sharing ideas, right?
True.
And
yes.
So, for me, there's a lot of talk about different theories and everything. And so one of the things I have always struggled is when I'm a practitioner in the workplace, I don't have time really to be engaging in all these different theories. And through networking and meeting people, you kind of can piecemeal it all together a little bit. Like you don't have to use all of BBS. You don't have to use all of everything. You can actually kind of figure out how things apply. And if you don't have those conversations and you're just reading books, then you may not also get that perspective.
Gosh, it's such a good point. And that's what I was referring to, but you said it so much more nicely and appropriately, that, having these clusters of various and perspectives and expertise, it kind of coalesces And it creates innovation for oneself. It furthers my research, for example, to be exposed to resilience engineering,
right,
or even systems engineering. And I'm a psychologist, but it has expanded my ability to be effective.
And I think that is really a powerful thing when we're looking at networking and we're looking at connecting with people. You know, one of the things that I've learned about is time to value, which is very close to something also in business called return on investment. Okay, and so when I'm networking with somebody and I'm spending time engaging with people, you know, are we both getting something really solid back for our investment of time? I see these people with millions of connections and followers, and yeah, they throw out some funny videos and stuff, but you can just waste so much time looking at those threads. I mean, there's a place for it for relaxation or whatever, that's great. But if you want to be pushing the envelope in your thinking, then joining like a group that you and Rosa and I have created, like the Safety View, where we're actually coming together, we're actually creating a platform for people to be talking to one another and disagreeing, and it's okay to disagree. Like I find on the threads, when somebody disagrees with somebody, they go to a character. They target somebody's character and not the actual engaging of the thinking. And for me, networking with people is that I want that tug of war in thought. I want to be able to have you, Lisa, push me out of my comfort zone. And I'm just, you know, when you're reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn or on Twitter or whatever, you know, pulling back and taking that extra step about what is the purpose? What is my intent for connecting with somebody?
You know, I agree. I think there has to be this give and take, Tamara. Yet I don't know if and Rosa had said this too, that we come in necessarily with an intention that I'm going to give something, I'm going to get something. And I know you're not implying that. That is, though, the essence, and I think this is what you're saying, of the relationship piece of it. That authentic, we're going to learn from each other. And then you said something interesting a moment ago about, you know, if somebody really pushes back and they're not receptive to another person's idea.
Right.
Let's look at it from the safety perspective, because that is betraying the fact that the individual who is so resistant is feeling insecure and they're feeling unsafe. Not that the position might be wrong, okay?
Yeah.
The other person is not, but I'm saying if one is so ardently holding their thought without being even receptive to the other person's idea, it's important to maybe reflect on, what am I afraid of? Am I losing my sense of power? Am I losing my identity? What is keeping me from engaging socially?
But see, and I'm going to push back here, because I think on social media, when you are connecting with people, there is an intent. You just don't go up to everybody on LinkedIn and start, you know, connecting with them. How do you choose who to connect with? Why do you choose certain people to connect with, right? So like Rebecca and I, we connected through Jamie Young at Safeopedia, because Rebecca was working with Jamie and I was working with Jamie, and Jamie was like, I think you two would get along great. So the intent for Rebecca and I getting together was that this person had said you two would get along, and he was right, you know. And for many years, Rebecca and I had moved in the same space, and we had never really connected. Even though Rebecca had reached out to me a few times, I was always kind of skeptical, like, what is going on here, right? And so I do think that on social, because there's millions of people out here, we do kind of choose our connections with some sort of intent. And as soon as I realized that Rebecca's intent was just to be friendly, just to want to get to know me and not use me for, like, a lot of people will connect with me because I own the EHS professional group. And they will connect with me with the intent to advertise on it for their business. And so maybe because I am exposed to those intents, I'm a little bit more cautious when somebody comes to me, right? Because I want genuine relationships. Now, you know, Rebecca and I are very good friends, and I move earth and mountains for my friends. And you know that, being my friend. But I have also learned that I need to be careful. I need to be careful and protect Tamara from takers in the world, right? And so I do think, and that's my opinion. You can.
No, I agree. And so what you're really pointing out, and clarify if I'm misunderstanding, it's almost like the intents have to match.
I think so, yeah.
And if the intents match, we call it a hit. Because I misinterpreted what you were saying initially, and I often don't go in with any conscious intention of what I want from somebody I'm going to connect with. Like for example, the guy that I referred to as research, the Vladis gentleman, the researcher, I never would have reached out to him. He's a researcher in a discipline that, I mean, it's so far off a planet for me, right?
Right.
But because somebody else was hooked to him and he made a really competent comment, I wanted to hook with him.
Right, right.
Because to your point, the intention was, he has something I want to learn, and maybe I can give him something back. So I agree with you. There, even subconsciously, there has to be a mutual intent.
And I'd like to hear from the audience, guys. We can see the chat on the stage, so please, you know, kick in your ideas. If you're interested in coming online and talking with Lisa and I, we're always open to chatting with everybody. We love chatting. And, you know, Cade, yes, you know what? You pointed out about the Discord, and the it's so important for innovation, and that can get lost in the threads when a character is attacked. And you totally nailed what I was trying to get at there. You know, one thing that I really enjoy when we have discussions like we are right now live is that we think a little bit more about what comes out of our mouth. I notice that with people when there's actually another human there, and it's not just text on a keyboard. It's there's more of a robust conversation. And even as like the owner of EHS Professional, when I reach out to people, I typically reach out to people because they're members in my group, Lisa. I reach out to them because I have noticed that maybe they've shared some interesting content somewhere and is valuable content. And I think the other members of the group would really like that content. So yes, I have an intention of going to that person and saying, hey, hi, I saw you wrote this amazing article, or you did this phenomenal podcast. Share it with the members, right? So I guess that in when I am using social networking, I am thinking first, why am I connecting with the person? And how can I make sure that when I'm connecting with somebody, I am sustaining and maintaining a good relationship with them? Because I look at all my connections and I think, how many people do I actually engage with? Why do we have all these people? This is not normal. We don't do this in our regular life, you know? And so that's gotten me to a place of thinking.
So a couple of things on that. That's a really interesting observation about the social network. You know, I've only recently, amazingly, you and I only hooked up on social media network recently.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing all of your posts, Tamara. And I would want to follow you, right? Because even if we never really engaged, I just saw something you responded to Rose, and I thought, oh, interesting chick, I'm going to hook up with her. And, you know, I see all of your posts coming through.
Yeah.
That's all I want from you,
yeah.
Or that you bring me value with. And you might follow me with the same. So our relationship is distant.
Right. Right.
but still giving something. I don't think our normal everyday communities maybe offer that opportunity, or do they? You go to the ice cream store for an ice cream, but you don't really become a friend with the ice cream person. They just give you an ice cream cone. I hope that makes sense. It's not a weird metaphor.
But yet I'm going to throw one into you, Lisa, because see, but there's something there, right? Because you're right. Our local ice cream place, it's just an in and out of a line. But then we have this quirky little place, this guy who started making macaroni and cheese. And he's been there for a good 7 years, and I've never been there before. And then finally, my son has worn me down about going to this mac and cheese place. And so we walk into this mac and cheese place, and this guy has now created an outdoor little patio space because of COVID where people can all come. But there's all these people there social distancing, chatting away. And these are the regulars at the mac and cheese place. You know, so some places create a sense of community and some places don't. And so why is that? You know, this is kind of in your wheelhouse. Why do some and don't?
But I think you know this too, and I do want to though draw that cool parallel between what you just described happened at the mac and cheese place and what happens in social networking. You know, if we take an individual, let's take Rosa, who would be a boundary spanner or whatever they're calling it on Cognitive Edge, a person who's connected to a diverse group of people. And you compare it to the mac and cheese owner.
Right.
There are few people that coalesce around Rosa based off of maybe mutual need that go beyond the mac and cheese. They make friends there who totally connect on their kids or soccer or whatever. And on Rosa's case, she's probably really coalesced around individuals that totally vibe with her relational safety.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
But then a wider group that just come into her mac and cheese house just to grab a mac and cheese and bust, right? They just come in to see what Rosa's putting out there, you know, what she's just, you get it. So aren't they kind of the same, but in a different?
Well, then that breaks us down to, you know, you've got your following, people who just kind of follow you around. And then is networking, in my mind, is different. Network is the people that I actually build rapport and trust with. And those people become our community, our tribe. You know, as Jason Lucas likes to say, creating our tribe. And so I'm going to push back here to say, I think followings is different than networking. You know, I think the people who just come in and out are the followers. And the people who stick around is your network. Yeah,
I think maybe we're getting into nomenclature because when I'm
I don't know what that means. What does nomenclature mean?
Meaning how we're defining the network. Because in my mind, when I'm saying network, I'm thinking of the full context of, you know, who I'm networked with. Closely or at a distance.
Okay, interesting.
And I think when you're using the term networking, you're meaning who I'm having a relationship with,
right?
Or dialogue. You know, so I'm thinking of it more. Yeah.
Is that maybe because I am a social influencer? And so
that could be.
It's just
you're
not
about the relationship.
It's not possible for me to have that kind of rapport with all of those people. I have over 150,000 people in my group, just to put it in context, you know? That's not giving them your network. Yeah.
So you would call them your network?
I would call that a community. Well, I don't know. Now I'm rethinking this on the spot. I don't know. What would you call that? Oh. Does anybody in the audience have any ideas? Like, you know, type on in. I wish you'd chime in here. You know, I never chose the word community to put to the EHS professional membership. That was a LinkedIn word. When I'm doing community, I'm doing community of smaller groups of people. Circle of influence. Oh, Kate, I like that. I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you, Kate. Yeah. Circle of influence. And so, like, are we attaching words to things, Lisa, maybe that we shouldn't be? And kind of creating a facade.
You know, I think now we're getting into what is a real problem in safety and all disciplines is taxonomy. And taxonomy is how we kind of capture and phrase elements. And so what you call, you know, that item is this, we're looking at the same item, but you're calling it something different than me. Yeah. And so I think it is important that we do, and this is a cool conversation to do it. What do we mean by network?
Yeah.
You know, in the social network scale of it and looking at the research on social networks, it's more like a system.
Yeah. And like, I want to pin that because I don't want to use all our time talking about this one area. And I want to move into the concept of community and what does community provide us? You know, I want us to start looking at the kind of when we think of community, about support and about reflection, you know, and how does community kind of impact these things? You know, I know for me, when I first came and I met Mark Lovelace, and he started to mentor me, and I became one of the individuals who helped moderate his group. We had a community of moderators. And so we would talk and we would share and we would connect. And then that grew out to a community of safety professionals sharing our ideas and thoughts. And that's how I met Chris Ward and Eric Kahn and Jim Loud and those different type of people, is that we started to come together and do little discussions, open discussions amongst a group of probably about 50 to 100 of us to start from that larger EHS professional circle of influence. Thank you. You know, and so that actually started becoming the community as opposed to the larger group. And so
circle of influence.
Yeah. And so it was interesting because then people could come to these small talks. We would record them, we would share them out, and other people could listen in, and then they would email us back their opinions and their insights or their questions. And so then we would have email chains going on. And so there was great learning from that.
So I have a question, because I don't think necessarily we have to discreetly cut off community from network.
No.
I think there's actually, and I don't think you meant to. I know you just want to shift topic. Yet I do see them related. And, you know, if Rosa were here, I'm thinking, what would Rosa say right now? And I wonder if she would maybe take a stab at posing that community, the difference between community and network maybe is housed in the depth of relationship.
Okay. So it's an environment where we can create acceptance and support.
Maybe community, we do that more readily, or that's what community is, that it's a greater depth of relationship. You know, that circle of influence implies that you are influencing and they are influencing you, right? So that seems very synonymous with community. And I'm thinking, again, you know, what Rosa might think, and I wonder, and I'll generally just posit this, that maybe a network is a grosser entity, because you're not hooked with all those people in your community, right? You're hooked with probably a small subset of them really closely. What do you call your community? Would you call it all your community?
No, I wouldn't. No. And I mean, Rebecca's posing a question, she's wanting to know if the COVID pandemic maybe has changed the importance of solid network or community in our safety world. And I do think it has. I think we're seeing just more people are using different platforms to come together and talk. I'm seeing a lot more podcasts bringing more than just one person on. I'm seeing a lot more discussions where people are opening it up now, and it's really great, so that they're having a whole bunch of people in the Zoom room talking. This idea of the webinar with a talking head has finally started to sail away to somewhere else. I'm so glad about that, because to me, that's not community. One person sitting there and just chatting away, it doesn't give any room for other people to present their ideas.
No, I agree with that. And also, in answer to Rebecca's question, from a psychologist standpoint, and having worked remotely for many years, it's a very difficult skill set to build, to be comfortable picking up cues and really vibing with subtle indicators of relationship. And I think as time goes on and we're working more and more remotely, one, I believe that the relationships that we used to use social network for, which was solely on this kind of professional, almost technical level, has become really more authentic and heartfelt. And two, I think that's influenced by becoming more competent about reading the cues of people. And being more comfortable that this machine is not going to inhibit my ability to connect with you. And I'll admit, it still feels a little awkward.
Yeah. And I also noticed that, through what we're going through, people have loosened up. It's okay to not have an ultra professional background with the perfect, office space behind you. I'm in my living room right now. So you're just seeing us in our normal houses. I didn't feel like, I've got to get my green screen out and I've got to do all this. I was just like, you know what? Forget about it.
Beaming.
We're seeing people's kids run across the backgrounds, and I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying, the freedom of life being able to happen. So I do think, Rebecca, it is shifting, because I think we're starting to become a generation of more accepting that life is just happening, and we have to allow it to happen and break that facade.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that we are getting more comfortable and we're seeing people in their real element.
Yeah.
On the other hand, as a psychologist, boy, I'm sounding like an older person. I guess I've gotten there. I do think that we have to be situationally aware.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I were on an interview right now, I might not change my background because that interviewee knows that I have to work from home.
Oh, absolutely.
And I also knew I was present today. Now, when I meet with Rosa and you, I usually do not have my hair actually combed and wear a nice shirt. But I think that we do have to be situationally aware of the context in which we're interacting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
What else do we have?
No, I just saw Mike had a comment, and he's saying the quality on this presentation is good. So thank you, Mike. I'm not saying that you don't have to be appropriate for the discussion that you're having. I'm just saying that, right now I have a 15-year-old. He knows that I'm doing this, and he's being respectful to stay out of the space, because but at the same time, if it's just me talking to you and Rosa and our weekly chats, now you can you've seen Kaylin walk by and, so, but before all of this happened, he would have been trying to crawl crawled down on his knees to get out of the camera way in order to make sure nobody saw him, because there was a taboo about, oh, somebody just crossed the camera. And I'm bringing this up with purpose because community is authenticity. You can't have community if you have everybody pretending to be what they're not. And so as a community developer and somebody who is really, like, I've even started a Facebook on, helping people create more safety supports and mentoring and stuff like that. And I can share it out with people if you're interested. But the whole point of that is just being your authentic self. Like, we've gotten into this place of, oh, I've got to count my numbers as a safety professional. Oh, I've got to make sure I have all of this and all of that. And we have like totally lost being authentic. Like, how about just talking to people and saying, hey, I was walking around and I was kind of seeing a group of you were struggling to do your work here. Is there something going on that I can help you with? And listen back to our employees. It's not about our employees are not numbers, right? And I think the same thing online. People are not numbers. Why are we so obsessed with, like, I saw another post out recently, like, oh, help us get your reach even farther. And it's like, what are you going to do with a really big reach? Like, seriously. Yeah. What, do you have a plan? Do you have a purpose for having 1 million people reach? Or should your reach be quality that when we're connecting and doing stuff, we walk away going, wow, that half an hour, that hour was so valuable today. It's helping me move spiritually somewhere, move maybe in my career somewhere, getting over a problem I was having to struggle with because I talked to you. Just the other day, remember I had a problem and I came to you and I said, hey, Lisa, this is what's going on. I don't want to respond here before I bounce it off somebody else. And you and I talked, and that freed up that gave me such opportunity to be then my best single mom, because it wasn't all in my head. It wasn't something I could talk to my son about, but I felt comfortable talking to you about. But you're part of my community, right? Is that, I'm just throwing it out. Like, maybe I'm totally off on my own planet here, and people are jumping back into my box saying, no, we want our reach. We want to be meet 1 million people.
Well, but that goes to intent. What is the intent? And that is something, what do you value? And if numbers are all you value, I'm not going to judge that. But I will speak personally that I have stopped advertising or posting via Petrichor Consulting, because I was very concerned that people would question my real intention and how authentically I really wanted to connect versus just sell my consulting business. And that distressed me. One of the things I should tell you this too, Tamara, it was about a month ago. I had posted something, I think relative to a Petrichor Consulting, my company. And he had written back and he said, I want to thank you for not trying to sell me something.
Right.
And he said, I'm so over through LinkedIn that people are actually promoting their business. And you and I talked about it, and we're not going to name the entity and the organization, but there's a lot of people who want to take that they're not there for an authentic, and that I don't value. So that's a personal thing. I'm not going to judge them, but that's not what I want to be.
Well, and like I'll get connections with people, and right at the gate they'll say, do you have a job to give me? I don't know who these people are. I've never met these people, and I'm just kind of like, helping somebody get a job is something I treasure for people that I really know. And the reason for that is because who I recommend to somebody else for something is an extension of what I view as a quality person to contribute to your organization. It's not just like you hand out jobs everywhere. a recommendation is a very sacred thing. Am I wrong on that?
No, of course you're right.
Okay, and somebody was asking us actually, does our online network ever move offline? And this is something that I've been thinking about, how can we do this? Because yes, you know what? I really do want some of the online to start being offline. And so how can we be doing more of that? And, you know, Rebecca, is the person willing to come on and talk to us about that? That would be great. You know, there used to be those meetup things.
Well, you know, I've met a couple of people, Mike Fackler, Gary Wong. These are people that I met via just their responses to posts that I made. And they took the time, and we had enough interest in each other's ideas that I've arranged to have meetings with them and feel that I've developed relationships and friendships with. Bill Nelson's another one. I feel like Ed Grimmer is a really good friend, even though we haven't yet connected. I know we could sit down and have a great conversation. So I mean, it becomes almost like there's no boundary between the online and offline if you build the community.
Now, here's the question, though, is would offline also be just in a private Skype discussion? Because online, you're meeting people all over the world. So for you and me to actually physically meet would be pretty hard. But does offline maybe mean that when you and I have our own discussions outside of a group, how are we defined? Or does offline mean like offline in the real world? I'm just asking, Lisa, are we changing that? Like, I know that we started with it means only in person. But now I'm kind of throwing out an idea of, should offline be expanded to something else because we are meeting people globally? And I mean, I would love to go to Australia and meet my friend Maria in Australia. She, you know, she's full of life and everything, but it's quite a hefty price for that airline ticket.
Well, I don't know. I thought offline was off of social network, social media.
No, I understand. That's what our generation thinks it is. I get that. But then I look at, but I'm pushing the envelope here, right? I'm pushing the envelope here because I look at my son and, you know, he is doing Dungeons and Dragons through Zoom with different people. So they don't come over to the house anymore and do it like we used to do it. So, like, is our generation's perception, is it in with the times? I'm just something to think about.
Tamara, well, this is a really interesting thing, because just to reverse it, it wasn't that long ago when my now 22-year-old was sitting in the back, you know, television room with 6 of his friends from high school. They all had their computers. So they were together, but they were online. They were connected by being online, but they weren't even doing the same thing. So maybe the reality is we're developing relationships and they can bring value in whatever context. It's, are we bringing our heart and soul and our authentic selves to them? Maybe where it's happening doesn't matter.
Maybe. No, absolutely. And that moves me through to like the power of collaboration and looking at partnerships. You know, so that's the last area I wanted to be actually discussing is like, you know, the collective and collaboration. And, you know, the idea of developing ourselves and others through these communities and connections that we're creating. Like, to me, you know, the power of being in a collective is that we're exposing ourselves to so many new different types of perceptions globally. I would never have even stopped to think of something. I had somebody come at me the other day because they're all the way in Australia and I'm all the way in Canada. And they're saying, hey, we're having our cold weather here. And I stopped for a minute and I thought, oh, I totally forgot about that because we're in summer here and like we're sweating, like, you know, but it made me stop and think, like some of the content that maybe I put in that group for Australia about summer heat wasn't really applicable to what that group was thinking about. So I had to back up a little bit and say, hey, you know, you got to be giving it a little bit more of a global perspective sometimes when you get into doing stuff.
Well, I heard two things in what you said. I thought you started with collaboration and the importance of collaborating and maybe the quality of it. I liked where you went though, and that comes back to where we started a bit, Tamara, of situational leadership or situational awareness.
Right.
You know, and then that links to authenticity.
Yeah.
Am I willing to be present and to be fully engaged with you and to be thoughtful of, as best I can, because we're human and we have our own stuff and there's, you know, noise around us and it keeps us from focusing on target. But, you know, the best we can, I want to be present with you and be thoughtful about your circumstances.
Right.
That's authenticity.
Yeah.
And that authenticity, now linking back to your collaboration question, that fosters genuine collaboration. Will I be open to? Can we share ideas?
And I think Kate has brought in a good point in the stage chat, you know, that the positive side of the pandemic is that, yes, we do have less in-person obligations, but it's also allowed us to now join confidently more global conversations. And you're right, like we're joining conversations of like 200 people on a Zoom meeting. It's incredible. I went to a Crush It challenge on the weekend and there was over 200 people on camera and it was just phenomenal. I was in my glory because for years, you know, I was saying to people, no, we should let more people come on camera. We should let more people be here. And everybody was saying to me, oh, Tamara, no, you've got to control the cameras and the mics. You got to control everything. And I'm like, why is everybody so obsessed about control? You know, you get a troll on a text post, you delete it. If you get a troll on a mic, mute them, you know, shut off their camera. Like, it's not really that complicated in my mind. It is in a lot of other people's minds. But the one thing I'm really loving to watch here is that it's breaking down siloed thinking. The more voices that are getting out there, the more that these social thought leaders aren't so important anymore. And you know what? I think it's kind of time to throw the thought leaders off of their podiums because everybody should have an opportunity to lead others with their thoughts. If you have something, a passion that you want to get out there, why is it only a few selected few that get this coveted position in social media? There's off my soapbox. That's it.
No, that's great. And I want to go off of that and address Kate's comment, which I really appreciate too. You know, the expansion and the willingness, the forced willingness of coming from a new lens based off of COVID and what it's kind of forced us into. And then what Kate's highlighting, this, you know, sharing of ideas just globally, and hundreds are coming from these various perspectives and being open to it and receptive. It's fantastic, especially if we can have quality and quantity.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Is that a possibility? Can we actually achieve that we can have all this variety and still have the quality of the relationship? It remains to be seen. I personally believe it.
I think it takes a little bit more work of thinking things out. Like I just want to show you for a second. Let me just go grab them. But this was really awesome. Something that I got in the mail for my weekend session that 200 people went to. Hold on.
And while Tamara is grabbing that, we're seeing a lovely view.
Now
of
I'm
her
grabbing
screen.
tools. Okay, so like we got these things.
Right on.
Okay, so sorry, we're getting real now. I'm just hopping off and going off. So we got these things here. Like this is so cool. So if I thought something was an on fire idea, yeah, my mic was muted, but I could be like waving this around. But I really, if I loved an idea, I could be like, oh yeah, you know, and I got this. So we can bring interaction with tools, and all I had to do was print this off at home, and I can paste it on a popsicle stick or whatever I want, or I could just hold it like this. Like you don't have to have the stick, you know. And then if I thought somebody had a great idea, like I think it's really about getting out there and kind of thinking, wait, like kick that box away. We got to get rid of that box. And, you know, if we allow other people to come and say, yeah, I've got another idea of how we could get people engaging, you know, and we've got some other people here talking too.
It's so hard though, Tamara, to like focus on you. I loved what Max said. Mike, I hope you're still staying online and we haven't lost you. He said it's easier to jump offline if you aren't engaged in the meeting.
That's true.
And then,
yeah.
Tamara, with your little emojis, don't we have emojis on Zoom and these kind of, you know, methods that we could just put it up there?
Yeah, we do. And you know what? Zoom also has breakout rooms. So if you do have something that's a lot of people, break them up into smaller groups and ask them to be doing something. Ask them to talk about something, you know, is another thing. And you're totally right. Like, you know, if people aren't engaged in the meeting, they can wander offline and you don't even know they went, you know?
Yeah. And I want to talk with Answer Wands too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tamara.
Well, Juan was saying, and the opportunity of sharing and communicating with more people at the same time expands the collaborative aspect of these communities. You know, and I wanted to go back to that online, offline concept because, you know, and I'm trying to get back to this with the Facebook group that I'm creating, you know, and I used to be doing like I had an ASP study group where on Sundays we would all get together and we would actually help people study for the ASPs. And somebody else wanted one for the CSPs. And so I was actually doing these little projects with people and it was really a lot of fun. Now, I know that the projects were online with people, but we were still like just a group of 5 to 10 of us getting together. And sometimes it would be like somebody was struggling with something in the workplace and we were having like a mastermind session to help people through something. And, you know, so I would really like to make 2020 the year that we're doing more of those things.
Yeah. I think it's going to happen naturally, Tamara. I mean, just look at how you and I evolved over this near hour.
Yeah.
I am so much more comfortable. My only disappointment in this is that I can't see Cade and Mike and Juan, you know, and that's why I like the safety view, to put in a little plug.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I really like that even though this was great, I'm so happy you set it up. I don't mean to diminish it. The safety view allows for those various perspectives, and you're in the moment, going back to Juan's point, that the thoughts are being shared in real time.
Right.
And even the initiator or the host of the show, you know, they're shifting their original conception in real time based off of people's input.
Right.
Now, if that doesn't build community and innovation and authenticity and engagement, I don't know what can. No. And this is through, you know, a computer. It's awesome. We have such potential.
And I'm putting the link in. I think we only have a few more minutes. I hope people found this to be of value, you know, in what we shared here. But I do want to share with people like the safety view discussions. that's something that everybody is more than welcome to be participating in. And if you can't come, we do record it. But the big thing is that we're having people share and talk. So it's not just like, Lisa, you're hosting the next one, but you're going to bring up
it's called the paradox of safety, and it's how we actually need challenge and a bit of strife to get to safe. So I hope you'll join. Sorry, Tamara.
Yeah, no, and I'm just getting the link so that if people want to come, that they can. And we're going to warn you, like, this is a bit different than what people are used to. And, oh, I'm sorry, Rebecca, I was off getting this stuff for everybody in there. I just noticed you were there. Hi.
That's all right. No, that's fine.
So I hope it's okay. I'm putting all these links in for people to take.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me?
You know, and again, you know, what was our intention for coming here? To share with people and let people know that there's great things going on. So if you in the audience have stuff you're doing, share back with us so we can share out. And I guess that's all the time we have left because you're here.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's been a really interesting hour, and I'm sure connect with anyone that's watching on LinkedIn and, you know, answer any questions they might have and share some more of your experience, because it's been very useful and it's certainly opened my eyes. So I'm sure, you know, now live and on demand, there'll be a lot of people that probably want to find out more. And the information that you've shared, Tamara, if you can also share that with me after this, then I'll make sure it goes across the HSE People Network so that other people can get involved in all these different things that you're doing as, you know, people in the safety industry to continue developing us and strengthening these relationships that we have, because I know it's very important to all of us.
Yeah, and I do want to just let people know about that safety movement on Facebook. Okay, I put it up here and I put the link in there, and the safety view stuff that we're doing is also going to be posted in here also. So, and Rebecca, if you've got anything for you guys happening, this is really a place where if people have tangible things that are happening, like this conference today would be, I just started the group on the weekend because I really want to just have people a place where they can be sharing, nothing that's marketing, but stuff that's going to connect us.
Cool.
So.
Fantastic.
Well,
thank you, Tamara, for inviting me, and Rebecca for working us through all the technical. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you both very much. It's been very interesting, and hopefully we can work again at some other point in the future. So thank you very much, and speak to you soon.
Thank you, Rebecca, for letting us come today. It's been phenomenal. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.